Hey guys, Lytane here, and today I'm going to be having a look at a character that I have grown up with. So many fond and a few frustrating memories are attached with this character. A character that has gone from soaring heights to abysmal lows. One that has gone through all different kinds of games as well. I want to have a look at Crash Bandicoot, the original game for the PlayStation 1, and see if it's worth it. Naughty Dog is a company that was founded in 1984 and made some pretty forgettable games during the 80s. Then in the 90s they made a game called Rings of Power, which is a very unique role-playing game with an open world. It's kind of like Skyrim in the 90s, and I'll have to talk about it someday. With the success of that game, they decided to make a fighting game next called Way of the Warrior that was very ambitious in terms of graphics and style, but it almost bankrupted the company. In order to finish the game, they approached Universal and made a partnership to distribute Way of the Warrior, as well as make 3 brand new games for the upcoming PlayStation console, which they agreed to. The first game they made for Universal is the now famous Crash Bandicoot. Crash was released in 1996 for the PlayStation 1 and was met with critical acclaim and put Naughty Dog on the map, and now pretty much everybody knows about them. Crash has a very simple story. Dr. Neo Cortex is an evil mad scientist bent on world domination, and the way he's going to take over the world is with an army of enhanced animals. Bit strange, but whatever. He creates them using his Cortex vortex, with the help of another mad scientist called Embryo. The next specimen for evolution, the one that he hopes will be the leader of his new army, is a Bandicoot, one named Crash. But the Ray rejects him, and he manages to escape the castle and washes up on the shore of Sanity Beach. Now he has a mission to save his girlfriend Torna, all while collecting gems, riding hogs, and breaking every box you see as we go to try and crash Cortex's party. Crash Bandicoot was a very unique game when it came out because it pushed so many boundaries when it did. Basically, whenever you want to create something in a 3D space, you have to use things called polygons, which are essentially shapes. And then you put a texture over the top, which is, the coloring or whatever, and then you build enough of them and voila, you've got a 3D object. The more polygons you use, the more smooth it will be and all that kinds of stuff. But for Crash Bandicoot, they actually made it really crummy and rudimentary. They made shapes that had very few polygons, and they didn't really stretch it in the kinds of way that other people were doing it. And because of that, they had a low polygon count, which essentially means they could put more things into a level or into a certain space. So because of that, they ended up using more of their polygons for the level design, for the environment that's around Crash, and for the enemies that he'll be facing. This is quite impressive because games at the time, even if they had a higher polygon count than what Crash was doing, had a flaw, where things like Silent Hill had a fog effect, so you couldn't see too far because the draw distance wasn't very good because the PlayStation couldn't render that many things. Crash Bandicoot, on the other hand, didn't have that kind of problem. It didn't have the draw distance problem because it kept the camera in a way that you couldn't see too far, and then it had a low polygon count on the screen so they could have more as each area that you were seeing. It was so impressive, in fact, that the other companies at the time thought that Naughty Dog had cheated, that Sony had given them some kind of background information, slipped them under the door saying this is how you get extra stuff onto the PlayStation. But no, Naughty Dog were just really clever in how they did this. And it's a testament because they were the first people to think about this, they were the first people to do this, and they were a relatively new company. They had no idea what they were doing for the PlayStation because this was the first PlayStation game. So it's really amazing that they managed to not only make a game like this, but then they decided to just screw the rules and do whatever they wanted. It's really, really impressive. But enough about the design, let's talk about the gameplay of this game, and it is honestly very simple. You have a level select screen which is based on the 3 islands of the map, and each area on the island corresponds to what level you're going to be going in, so you get a little bit of a teaser of sorts. After you select a level, you jump straight into the action, and you can walk in all different directions, jump and spin, and that's pretty much it. You'll have to make your way through each level, usually progressing towards the top of the screen as you walk towards the exit, which is where the game got its nickname, Sonic's Ass Game, because you'll be looking at Crash's butt for a majority of the game. There are two other types of levels as well, one being the opposite where you are running towards the camera, away from something, usually a boulder that is chasing you, and some side-scrolling levels as well which usually have more verticality to them than the levels than anything else. You will be facing enemies from natives to just random animals and you will have to jump on them or spin them to get rid of them. They don't offer too much in the way of difficulty, mostly just getting in the way, but if you aren't paying attention, they will kill you. With a relatively simple design, the game itself can get pretty difficult as it progresses. There are a lot of pitfalls in this game where if you don't make the jump correctly, you will die. And because of those enemies that are more of a nuisance than anything else, they will be in the way as you're trying to make these jumps, usually either missing the jump and then you die, or you hit the enemy and then you die. There's quite a few ways to die, especially in the later parts of the level. What's worse is that Crash only has a single hit before he dies. There's no health bar or anything like that, it's just one hit and you're dead. There is an exception to this though. Throughout the game, you'll be finding things called an Aku Aku mask that are hidden in some of the boxes. Now, these masks offer Crash an extra hit, which is great. And if you collect 2 masks, then you get 2 extra hits. Yay! So you can stockpile on masks, right? No. After you collect the 3rd mask, something special happens, and Crash enters an invincibility mode. In this mode, he can run through all different objects, no enemies can hurt him. If he goes near a box, it explodes after a short period of time, like I think it's a second before it explodes. He's got all these cool powers. Nothing can kill him. Except for those pitfalls that I mentioned earlier. He's not a god. The mask can only save you from everything else. If you fall down a hole, you still die. As you play through each level, you will notice the many boxes that are littered through them. These contain numerous things from Wumpa Fruit, which are the coins or rings of this game where, the deal, you collect 100 and you get a life. Boxes also contain straight out lives, masks, and checkpoints as well as bonus stages. If you go through and get every single box in the stage, then you will be rewarded with a box gem, where they are very hard to get because of one special extra little condition. You can't die in the level. If you die, the whole level resets and you're placed at the last checkpoint that you hit. But as the level reset, every box that you hit on the way to the checkpoint are now magically back. So unless you travel back through the level, you will have to get every box in one go in order to get the gem. This is honestly where most of the difficulty comes into play for this game, where 2/3 of the game honestly isn't that hard. The first 2 islands aren't too bad. It's the final island that is very difficult to finish because the levels are quite hard, both challenging in the fact that you have to get through all these different pitfalls and enemies, and even more challenging if you want to get 100% because you need to do those really hard levels without dying. Most people that I know have never 100% the first Crash Bandicoot because of this difficulty spike. It is so easy to make a mistake, to accidentally miss a jump, to accidentally touch an enemy and die, losing all of your progress. Because of this, most people will not go for the 100% or just get too frustrated to do it. Another wrinkle in box collecting is the fact that there are colored gems in this game. Now, if you play through a normal level, sometimes you will find a little thing that you can't interact with that's just a bit of a color, and you're like, what is this? That is a colored gem path, which is essentially an extra part of the level that is locked off to you until you find that colored gem. So, you have to play through a level, and then if you're going for the 100%, realize that, oh crap, I can't get 100% because there's a colored gem path. Then you have to go to the level that has the colored gem, find out which level that is, get through that one with 100%, get the gem, then come back to the original level that you were just playing, and then do that one with the 100%, or with the colored gem in place, and now there's an extra pathway to do. Then you still have to do both the normal way and the colored gem path with 100% boxes without dying. It's a lot to take in. Honestly, it's not too bad, and it does offer this kind of replayability to some of the stages because most of the first island have colored gem routes, and they make you so that makes it so the colored gems that you find mostly on the later half of the second and the third island, you'll need those to go back to the first one and play the levels that you've already done. extends the life of the game a little bit, but it's also a little bit cryptic, and you don't really know where these colored gems are going to be. A lot of people don't even know that there are gems in this game because they just die naturally when they play through it. So unless you get through a level by accident, or sorry, not by accident, unless you get through a level where you don't die, a lot of people don't even know there are gems in this game. It's really, really crazy, and it just baffles me that this kind of game had no hint, no anything about it, aside from in the game manual, but don't worry about that. The game itself has no hint that these things actually exist. The last thing that some of these levels offer are a bonus area. These are found if you collect 3 of a special character's face whilst in the level. These transport you to a bonus area where you can earn some extra lives and Wumpa fruit. Torna's bonuses are the most common and easy enough to finish. Then you have the embryo bonuses, which are harder, but they usually offer more lives if you do finish them. And then you have Cortex, which has 2 bonus levels that give you a key to access a secret level in the game. Now, there is a massive problem with the game which revolves around saving. There is an old school password system, but being a PlayStation game, it uses a memory card, which is honestly great. The problem though is that you can't save whenever you want to. You can only save after finishing a bonus level or if you collect a gem, and that's it. So you can finish the whole game but fail to do a bonus, so none of your progress saves and you have to do it all again. Also, using a bonus to save gets rid of it from the game, so you can't use the same bonuses again. It is such a stupid method and ruins some of the game because you will need to save, and you will want to save most often in the final island, but it has the fewest bonus stages, making it even harder. It's just ridiculous. Another thing that is ridiculous are the bosses in this game. They're all just jokes, honestly. I don't even know why they call them a boss. Papu Papu is the first one that you'd be fighting, and it's very, very simple. It's the first boss of the game, so I can almost give it a free pass to being easy. Basically, he just spins around with a giant stick, you jump over the stick and land on his head. Piece of cake. But all of the bosses have a very simple pattern that is super easy to figure out and then super easy to exploit. Pinstripe, Ripperoo, Koala Kong are all ridiculously easy, and I don't know why they're even in the game. Embryo has a bit more of a challenging fight only because it's a longer fight. And you have to figure out how to hit him in each phase. So there's a bit more danger there, but it's not too bad. Cortex as well is also a harder fight. He's probably the hardest, if not Embryo is the hardest. They're kind of on equal footing. Where the Cortex fight is a little bit harder because it goes for longer and you have to memorize the pattern of the guns whilst you're trying to figure out how to hurt him. Once you do figure it out though, it's an easy fight. Honestly, the bosses in this game are a joke. The levels themselves are so much harder than the bosses. So here are a few of the levels that I think are just ridiculously stupid and hard. The first is Road to Ruin because it is one big pitfall after another. You're on a rickety bridge, and as you make each jump, a lot of the platforms just fall away. There's a lot of big jumps. There's also hogs that will be chasing after you, and there are all different manners of things that you have to do. It is such a long level too, and you will most likely die. Then you have Cortex Power, which is arguably the hardest level to get the gem in, because it has got many branching paths. So not only do you have to figure out which way to get to the exit, which isn't too bad if you just want to finish the level, it's just very difficult because you have to go down multiple paths in order to get all the boxes. So you have to go down one path, and when it splits you have to choose one path. Then at the next split you have to choose the other path, and then at the next split you have to go back down because you missed all the boxes that were along the first split. It's really, really, really awkward to do. Then you have a level like Slippery Climb, which is probably the hardest level of the game. It is definitely one that gave me a lot of frustration when I was playing through it, because it is a massive level. So massive it's making me talk funny. It's a long level, and there is just pitfalls everywhere. You make the smallest jump mistake and you will die. There is moving platforms in the middle of the air. There are jumps that are so tight that if you just get the timing a little bit wrong, you will die. And if you're trying to go for that 100% gem, oh my dear lord, it is just death. It is so hard to do. I honestly hate it. And I'm pretty sure it's a red gem as well, so you have to do it if you want to get 2 different gems, because you have to use the red one to get the other one. It's ridiculous. And so what do you get for getting all of these gems? So just before you fight Cortex, there's a random level that has literally nothing in it. You can go into the level and you jump to the other side of this little jump, and that's the end of the level. It's one of those ones that is a little bit peculiar, but as you start collecting gems, a gem path starts opening up. So as you go, you collect each gem, you get a little platform that you can jump along. If you collect every single one of them, you can get to the end of this area. And basically, it's just a little 100% bonus, which honestly is good. It gives you something to work towards at the very least. Honestly, it's a nice reward. It didn't have to be there, but it's good that there is a reward. Yay. It's pretty silly. It's just an alternate ending kind of thing. So it's not bad, but definitely could have been better, but at least there was something. Crash Bandicoot has been so popular that in 2017, a remake made by Vicarious Visions came out called the Sane Trilogy, which has the first 3 Crash games on one disc, remade from the ground up, with new graphics, new controls, and new features. Now, I've played the first game numerous times, and I am pretty good at it in my opinion. You can even watch my Let's Play through the whole game, where I go through like the first island without even dying because I'm such a badass. And so I'll put a link in the card and in the description if you want to check that out. But when I played this remake, it beat me up quite a bit. While it does look great and I love the new graphical style, the controls were just slightly off, as Crash is heavier than the first game and he falls faster. The camera for the levels as well has been slightly altered because they wanted to show off more depth in each level. They put the camera a little bit lower, so I'm used to having a different camera style and a different jump arc with a different jump speed. So when I played this game on the very first level, I was killed by one of the first enemies because I just didn't know that this was going to be played that way. I didn't understand that the controls were going to be that much getting used to. Aside from the controls, the collision detection is also slightly off, so you could clip off the edge of boxes and enemies, which has killed me more often than it should. But it's not all bad. They did fix the saving so you can save wherever you want. They also changed the way that box gems work so you don't have to go through the whole level in one go, so you can die and it's okay. Except of course if you want to get a color gem. So if you want to get a color gem, you still have to do it in one life. That means Slippery Climb must still be done with one life, which sucks balls, but honestly, it's not that bad. The game is still hard as nails, but it's hard in a slightly different way. To add to the challenge of the first game though, they added time trials, which can honestly go and suck a dick, because the very first game is not made for time trials. This is definitely just an added on feature. The levels in the first game were made to be a little bit slower and a little bit more thought out, so running through them at hightail speeds and trying to get a stupid relic is really difficult, especially on some of the levels like Road to Nowhere or Slippery Climb, which are very long and very hard, and if you make a single mistake, you have to do it all again, because a time trial, you have to do it all in one life. So they can suck a dick. They also added the Lost Level Stormy Ascent as DLC, which was free for the first few months when the game came out, and now you have to purchase it. Darn. Which is probably the hardest level in the game, and the one that took me forever to get the stupid time trial for. But I did it, and I got the gold, and I was only a couple seconds off the platinum, and I was like, nah, I'm not playing this level again, because it took me days to do it. Honestly, it's a good remake and the easiest way to experience the original Crash game if you haven't already. If I didn't enjoy the controls too much, I have gotten used to them and now I can play through the game just fine. Crash Bandicoot is, in my opinion, worth it. It is such a fun game, even though it is tough as nails. It is very rewarding to go through each of these levels because when they are tough, you feel so good about yourself if you do manage to beat it. I agree that the controls are a little bit heavy, but they can easily be gotten used to, and because the controls are fairly consistent, they're consistent throughout the whole thing, you don't feel like you're being punished, or you don't feel like you're being like crapped out, or that it was the controls fault. You more feel like it was the dickhead placement of enemies or the pitfalls that were killing you more than anything else. Whilst I do say play this game, maybe you should get it on the Sane Trilogy instead of the original PlayStation, because it did fix a lot of the problems that the original had, including the saving feature, which, oh my god, in the Sane Trilogy, great idea. Also, it makes the game slightly easier with the box gems, because you don't have to go through it with the one life mantra. So it makes it slightly better, but the time trials can still suck a dick. If you were to play the original, I would say play it, because it's a great game, but I don't recommend you 100% it. The gems are difficult, and it's the most difficult part of the game. If you're up for that challenge, if you're up for that kind of hair pulling out, stress inducing thing, then by all means go for it. But honestly, play the game, but maybe skip out on the gems. I have so many fond memories of this game. I used to play it when I was like 6-7 years old, and I would play the absolute crap out of this game. I would put it on in the mornings before I would go to school, be super paranoid that my parents would wake up because I'm playing a game and the sound's coming off the TV, only to die like constantly and then be angry when I went to school in the morning, because it is quite difficult. I could not finish those Road to Ruin or Road to Nowhere levels, and they were just so hard. Also, I really loved the hog levels because of that stupid eyebrow waggle that that Crash does just before he jumps onto the hog. Honestly, he has so much personality and it's so much fun, and I do like everything about this game. It's just so cool. Yeah. Don't forget to subscribe. See you guys next time. Bye. Crash Bandicoot was a very unique game when it came out because of reasons that I don't remember, even though I wrote the script. So you could finish, say, the whole game, but fail to do a bonus. You could do the whole game and fail to do a bonus. So